Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Wispin here. Welcome back to another Pixelmon 7.0 update showcase. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you everything you need to know about the new Ultra Space Dimension, which was added in the latest release of Pixelmon. I'll be covering everything from how you get to Ultra Space to what you can do while there, as well as sharing some tips I have based off my experience with the new dimension. Before we get into any of that, I want to say thank you to all of those that have supported my last couple of videos on the 7.0 update. I've decided to go ahead and continue the giveaways, so if you missed the last couple of videos, I recommend checking them out. Both have giveaways for some pretty cool Pokemon. In this video, I'm going to be giving away a Cosmog to one random lucky subscriber. All you need to do in order to enter for a chance at winning the Cosmog is make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, leave a like on the video, and comment down below with your Minecraft username and your favorite new addition to Pixelmon 7.0. I'll be selecting the winner in a future video once we've updated the Poke Central network to the new version. Without further ado, let's get into the rest of the video. Ultra Space is a brand new dimension added in Pixelmon 7.0. This new dimension is the only place you can find many of the Ultra Beasts that were added in the 7th generation of Pokemon. While Ultra Beasts aren't technically legendaries, they're still extremely powerful and definitely a great addition to your team, so I definitely recommend checking out Ultra Space if you get the chance. Ultra Space also contains a brand new tier of Pokeloot. Above the Master Ball tier, there is now Beast Ball Pokeloots, which function similar to the regular Pokeloots. However, they have their own prize pool, which includes Savali's RKS-held items that change its typing. In order to get to Ultra Space, you need to enter through a wormhole. Wormholes can actually be found randomly generated around the world, or you can create your own, which I think is a little bit cooler. In my previous video covering the new Generation 7 additions, I actually spawned a few blocks from one of these wormholes in a freshly created world. However, if you're not quite that lucky, making your own is fairly easy. The first step to making your own Ultra Space wormhole is obtaining the legendary Pokemon Cosmog. Cosmog spawns in the Overworld and Sunflower Plains biomes at both dawn or dusk. Being a legendary Pokemon, they are fairly rare. Luckily, actually finding a Cosmog is the most difficult part of this entire process, so once you have that, the rest of the steps are pretty easy. So once you've managed to catch or otherwise obtain a Cosmog, you'll need to evolve it before it has the power to create wormholes. Cosmog evolves into Cosmoem at level 43, then it can evolve into both Solgaleo and Lunala starting at level 53. The Pokemon it evolves into is determined based on the time when the evolution occurs. If your Cosmoem evolves during the day, it will become Solgaleo. If it evolves during the night, it will become Lunala. Once you've obtained your Solgaleo or Lunala, creating a wormhole is extremely simple. Similar to how you Mega Evolve your Pokemon outside of battle, all you need to do is use the Wormhole External move. This move can be accessed by pressing B until the option in the top right of your game displays the wormhole option. Cycle through all of the external moves by pressing B until you see the option, then you can press G to instantly create a brand new wormhole that will take you straight to Ultra Space. Before we head into that portal, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the things that you should bring with you. Similar to the end, Ultra Space consists of multiple separate islands that float above the void. Due to this, traveling in Ultra Space can be a bit tedious. I recommend you bring a bunch of low-value blocks, something like dirt, that you can quickly build bridges with, or bring Ender Pearls with you for some extra mobility. That'll really help you out to get around the Ultra Space Dimension. You might be tempted to bring a flying Pokemon that you can just ride around on, but you'll find out very soon that is not a great idea. I have a few more tips about Ultra Space, but before we get into that, let's head inside and take a look around. To enter Ultra Space, all you need to do is jump straight into the center of the wormhole that you created. So guys, we've made it to Ultra Space, and there is a couple of things that you'll notice right off the bat when you arrive. Number one is the fog. The fog all around you constantly switches hues, so it's constantly changing to a bunch of different colors. It's really cool, but it does prevent you from seeing very far at times. It kind of fades in and out, so at certain times you can see a little bit further than others, and sometimes you can only see a few blocks in front of you. The second thing you'll notice is that the gravity here is very strange. When you jump, you'll go up maybe 5 or so blocks, and then you'll actually fall back down slower than you would in the overworld. The problem with this is if you try to ride on a flying type Pokemon, as I said before, you're going to run into a slight problem. So let's go ahead and throw out our Lunala here, and let's pull up our F3 here where you can see our Y coordinate. So our Y coordinate is displayed right here. Currently we're sitting at Y60. The second we jump on Lunala, you're gonna see we're gonna start going up, and you start going up very, very quickly. We're already 300 blocks up into the sky, which means there's really no good way to ride on a flying Pokemon. You're just going to continue to go up in the Y coordinate, and it takes a very long time to fall back down. You go up about 50 times faster than you fall. As you can see, that number is dropping very slowly. It's going to take us a pretty long time to get back down to where we were before. Now, if you do find yourself in this situation, you can hold shift to go down pretty quickly, and you'll see we do actually take fall damage. Okay, that's interesting. I did want to test that. I wonder if we took fall damage because we were holding shift or because you just take fall damage when you fall from such a height. I was actually not expecting to die there. All right, so let's head on back in, and this time we're going to use our blocks and our Enderpearls to get around rather than trying to ride on a Pokemon. I do not recommend attempting that because obviously it's not going to end very well. So depending on where you enter Ultra Space in the overworld, that will determine where you end up once you're actually here in the dimension. So we're in a completely different place now because we entered into a portal at a different location in the overworld, and now we seem to be in some kind of a forest biome. Now, if you do come to Ultra Space, you're really going to be looking for Ultra Beasts. That's really the only reason that you have to come to this dimension at this point in time. That and the Beast Balls that I mentioned a little bit earlier on. However, while you're here, you can find some pretty cool stuff. Since you're here, you might as well explore some of the other stuff that Ultra Space has to offer. Number one, you're going to find all kinds of crazy things like this here. They're all over the place. There's a bunch of different things, and there is actually quite a few different biomes for you to explore. And I've actually even seen some Ender City builds and some Nether Fortress builds as well, which is pretty crazy to see here. And so you can find some really cool stuff. You'll also be able to actually find ores if you want to mine here. So if the overworld for some reason is vacant of all ores, if you've already mined the entire thing out, then you can come here and you can gather some. There's also an abundance of berries and apricorn trees. So if you're for some reason needing a bunch of berries, this is definitely a good place to check out. So at first you might think that other Pokemon won't spawn here and you'll only be able to find Ultra Beast, but actually every single Pokemon that spawns in these biomes in the overworld, I believe, will spawn in Ultra Space. So we can see here, we are currently sitting in a birch forest biome, and that is definitely not a birch forest tree. But either way, we're in a birch forest biome and we have a wild fledgling. You're going to see all kinds of Pokemon around here, not just Pokemon that should be restricted to Ultra Space. But I think that's pretty cool because if there were no Pokemon, it would feel a little bit empty. So guys, I was just wandering along and we found our very first unique Pokemon. I believe this is an Ultra Beast. I'm not very familiar with Generation 7, but it looks like this is a Pheromosa? Okay, I couldn't really see the name there because it's very translucent, but I believe this is a Pheromosa. Now, there was no notification in chat telling me that there was actually an Ultra Beast that spawned, so I assume either my settings are messed up currently or that's just not a thing that pops up in the chat. So that is interesting to take note of. You're not really going to know if they are around you unless some update actually includes that. I think it would be cool if they did similar to how Legendaries announce, or maybe even on servers only announce it to people that are actually in Ultra Space. That could be cool. But yeah, we got our first Ultra Beast here. I'm going to go ahead and keep wandering around and see if we can locate another one, a unique one. But in order to do that, I believe we will need to head to a new biome. I also want to be on the lookout for some of those Beast Balls to see if maybe we can open up a couple of those. So for testing purposes, I have decided to go ahead and give myself an item finder. I'm going to run around using this thing to see if I can locate any of those Beast Ball Pokeloots. And I'm also going to keep my eyes peeled for any of the other Ultra Beasts that might spawn somewhere around me. Hey, look, there's a Stuffle. Okay, that's a new Pokemon with Generation 7. That's pretty cool. We have so many berry plants. They're all over the place. I'm pretty sure there's way more here than the overworld. Well, that's cool to note. NPCs will actually spawn here as well, so you can expect to see some of those around. And I'm not seeing anything else, so it does look like Ultra Beasts are fairly rare, and it does seem like Pokemon are slightly more rare as well. The spawn rates here don't really seem to match the overworld spawn rates. Now this is really cool. So these little patches of lava spawn around the world in all the islands, which means as you're wandering around, you're actually going to come across quite a few forest fires. At first, I was a little bit worried about this because if all the trees burn down, it'll be a little bit strange. However, I think it is a cool effect because as you're wandering around, it's kind of just chaotic to see all of the trees burning down. And I don't know, it just fits with Ultra Space, and you don't really need to come here to gather wood because you can do that in the overworld pretty easily. Now, one thing to note is this fog can actually be turned off. I don't recommend doing so because I feel like the fog adds a lot to the atmosphere and it's really cool. And if I was playing in a survival world, I definitely would never turn it off. However, if that's something you're interested in doing, you can actually just go into your settings. If you have Optifine installed, it'll look exactly how I have now. But if you don't have Optifine installed, it will look slightly different. But you can go ahead and just turn off fog completely, and that'll make it super easy to see very far, maximum render distance, and you can see actually over there is one of those Ender cities I was talking about, which is kind of cool. It does make it easier to find things, but it also kind of takes away from the whole experience. Now, one thing I did want to go ahead and quickly test is if fall damage occurred because we were using shift, or if it always occurs if you fall from a high enough height. So let's go ahead and go up a few blocks here and see, will we take fall damage if we don't use shift? I'm gonna go ahead and say no, but who really knows? Oh, we're getting faster. Okay, so you do. You don't take very much fall damage. In the overworld, that fall would have definitely killed me, but you do take some fall damage, so that's why when we fell from 300 blocks up, we did die. Now, I want to take a minute to go ahead and explore both this nether fortress here and the end city up there. I want to check to see if there's any chests with good loot and see if the loot tables for those chests are any different from actual nether fortresses and end cities. Well, one thing to note is there is actual blaze spawners in these nether fortresses. Now, on most Pixelmon servers and even in single-player worlds, mobs are going to be disabled, which leads me to believe that most likely blazes aren't going to spawn, but I do know... at least I think blazes only spawn in light. So let me go ahead and place a couple of torches and we'll test and see if these blaze spawners actually work. Alright guys, I've sat here for a couple of minutes and no blazes have spawned, which means the default settings for Pixelmon disable these blaze spawners from working. However, that is something you can change if you want to. So you could set up a pretty cool blaze farm here in the Ultra Space dimension. You are also able to find nether warts here, just like in the regular nether fortresses, but I have not been able to actually locate a chest so far. Alright guys, and here we have our first chest, so I can confirm you can find chests inside these nether fortresses here in Ultra Space, and it does look like they do have custom loot tables. Now, I think the nether fortresses in the actual nether also have the same custom loot tables, so you're going to find the same items here in Ultra Space as you would in the nether. However, I know on the Poke Central network we have the nether disabled, so if that's the case on the server that you're playing on, this is a really good way to get some of those items that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And over in the end city, we actually have the same answer. The loot tables are custom. You can see there are a couple of mind plates here in this chest, and there's actually some other cool stuff in here, a couple of dread plates, as well as a ton of psychic gems. A bunch of loot in that chest. So you will be able to find some pretty cool stuff in these builds as well. But I do believe if you visit an end city in the actual end, you'll get the similar loot tables there. So you can still get these custom items either way. But again, on Poke Central, we do have the end disabled. So you'll be able to get all of the items that you're not able to obtain through these chests here in the Ultra Space dimension. And that also includes being able to actually find these ships and get the elytras. I believe there should be one in here somewhere, right? Yeah, right there. There is an elytra right here. And of course, well, that's a different held item. Okay, a twisted spoon. And this actually also has a twisted spoon, so that must just be a common item here in the end cities. Another thing to note is underneath a lot of the islands, you'll actually be able to find these fossil structures which contain the default Minecraft bone block. So this isn't necessarily a Pixelmon block. However, it is a really good way to get a ton of bone meal fairly easily. Although not really that easily, because making your way down here to actually collect these seems pretty difficult. But at the very least, they are very easy to locate, so that is something that you could probably collect if you took the time. I would recommend maybe, actually, the islands are giving me some ideas, maybe using some water buckets to travel down to these bone blocks so that you can collect them and then turn them into bone meal or just use them in your builds. You'll also notice that Pixelmon structures can spawn here, including these boss towers. Now, again, on Poke Central, we actually have these disabled from spawning in the world, so you won't be able to find them there. But if you are on default Pixelmon settings in your own single-player world, you will be able to find them. And I just noticed another one of these spawned in. Pheromosa. Is this not an Ultra Beast? Pheromosa is definitely an Ultra Beast, but for some reason it is extremely common here. There's actually a few of them right around. That's kind of strange. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I do have all my settings to the default Pixelmon settings, so maybe that's just an issue that they need to resolve in a future version. Maybe Ultra Beasts are just spawning way too much, more than they're supposed to. But we just saw two side by side. I definitely think that they should be fairly rare, maybe about half as rare as a legendary Pokemon. So there are a ton of Ultra Beasts that are exclusive to Ultra Space, and that's the only way you can get them, by visiting this dimension and trying to find them. If there is a specific Ultra Beast that you're actually interested in, then just go on Google, type in the Ultra Beast name, and type in Pixelmon afterwards, and the first link should be a link to the Pixelmon wiki. So I was wandering around looking for some of these Beast Ball Pokeloots using my item finder, and unfortunately it seems like the item finder is not going to be helpful in locating these Beast Balls. It doesn't actually indicate which direction they are in, and I'm not sure if that's just because the item finder can only find invisible Pokeloots, or because we're in a separate dimension and Beast Balls weren't programmed into the system. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but I do know that item finders are not going to help you here in Ultra Space with finding these Beast Balls. I randomly came across two that were right next to each other, so it does seem like they are fairly common here in Ultra Space, and they can give some pretty cool loot. So as I said earlier in the video, they can give you the items to change your Savali's type, but they can also give you some pretty cool other items like Z Crystals. So let's go ahead and open up both of these and see what we actually get, and you can see there, we got one of the Z Crystals, and we got a Fairy Memory. So that gives a good example of the different types of items that you can find. You can get both Z Crystals, and you can get Savali's Memories. So the final question that a lot of people are going to have in this video is, how do you get out of Ultra Space once you are in it and once you're ready to leave? And there's actually two answers to that question. Number one, you can go ahead and just throw yourself off any island down into the void. It won't actually kill you, it will just teleport you back to the overworld. So that is definitely the easiest way to get out. But if you're not comfortable with jumping off an island into the unknown, you can actually just go ahead and use your legendary Pokemon that you created the original wormhole with to create another wormhole, and that wormhole will take you directly back to the overworld if you fly through it. Now, I believe the wormhole does have a cooldown, and that cooldown seems to be anywhere from like 5 to 30 minutes. I can't get an exact read on the time because it kind of just flashes down, but you can see in the top right corner, part of it's grayed out, and while it's grayed out, you are unable to use it. Once that goes all the way down and the icon is completely clear again, you'll be able to spawn in another wormhole, so it's pretty cool the way they have it set up. However, because it's on cooldown, I'm just gonna go ahead, throw myself into the void, and we are gonna head on back to the overworld. Now, one thing I do want to test is if we actually shift while we're falling, are we going to take fall damage? Actually, I'm in creative mode, game mode 0. If we shift now while in survival mode down into the void, are we gonna take fall damage going back in? And no, we won't. Okay, that is good to note. So you just get teleported straight back to the overworld on the ground, a couple of blocks above the ground, it looks like. Not enough to take fall damage, but enough so that you won't get stuck in the ground, and you'll get back to the overworld. And then at any point in time, you can go ahead and throw out your Lunala or Solgaleo again, and once that cooldown is over, you can spawn in another wormhole. So that's pretty much it for Ultra Space. If there's any information that I missed, go ahead and leave a comment down below and let me know about it. If you have any questions about Ultra Space, you can also leave a comment, and I'll do my best to get back to you guys. If you see a question and you know the answer to it, just make sure to go ahead and answer that down below. Help other people out. Ultra Space is new to everyone, so I'm sure there's a ton of really cool stuff that nobody really knows about it yet, except for the developers, and we're just gonna have to explore and find out. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.